The story begins with our protagonist lying on a bed with a girl. At that inopportune moment, his phone started ringing. Chen came to his senses. He sat up in bed and turned around in surprise. The guy couldn't understand how he ended up in the hotel. The boy turned with interest to the girl next to him. He concentrated but couldn't quite remember what had happened between him and the stranger. Chen looked closely at his phone. He saw that Zhao Jia had messaged him. He immediately remembered her. The guy looked closely at his phone. He thought that not much time had passed since his girlfriend broke up with him. The guy stared at his phone. He remembered that his girlfriend had blocked him on social media earlier, but now she messaged him in a tone as if they were still in contact. The guy looked closely at the calendar on his phone. He glanced at the date and realized with surprise that he seemed reborn. Chen remembered the last time he saw his girlfriend. She stood next to her new friend and told the protagonist, with a disgruntled expression, that she had found someone who truly understood and appreciated her. The protagonist's girlfriend wrote to him with displeasure because he hadn't sent her an envelope for the holiday. Chen thought to himself with displeasure that love had blinded him greatly. After that, he decided to act. A guy texted his girlfriend that he wanted to break up with her. She told him he might regret his decision later. The guy looked closely at his phone. He read a message from his interlocutor. A blue window appeared in front of the surprised young man. The system informed its owner that he had shown determination. The divine system activated in front of the young man. Chen looked up in surprise. In his past life, he had encountered nothing good. In this life, he immediately received 2 reincarnation rewards. He decided that he was destined to ascend to the top. The boy jumped up in bed. He read detailed information about himself in the system window. He was 18 years old. The owner learned from the system that he would earn 1/10 of a yuan per second. Chen reached out and confidently clicked on the system window. He decided to open it. A small, sparkling toy souvenir appeared in the room before the protagonist. The system congratulated its owner for winning a supercar as a cash prize. The guy happily glanced at his phone and saw that 10 million yuan had been deposited into his card. The owner couldn't figure out what kind of favor scanner he'd received as a reward. Chen turned around and looked closely at the sleeping girl on the bed. She was still motionless. The boy reached out and used a favor scan on the stranger on the bed. He learned that the girl's name was Yu Xiaoxiao. She was 25 years old. Her privacy score was 1. The guy decided to find out what the term confidentiality meant. Chen was surprised. He eventually realized that he was the girl's first man. The guy had a hard day. He called his girlfriend Jia, but she didn't answer. So he went to a bar to get drunk. That's where he met Yu Xiaoxiao. The guy inside the bar stared intently at the girl with the glass at the table. Chen thought his new acquaintance's favorability level was 60. The guy looked at his new acquaintance on the bed and sighed with great displeasure. Yu opened her eyes on the bed. She looked at the main character with great fear and displeasure. The girl came to her senses. She grabbed a towel with her hand and slyly told the guy that he was smiling and shaking his head just like at the bar. Chen sat on the bed next to the girl and looked at her carefully. The guy moved to kiss his girlfriend. He told her that he wasn't at all worried about what happened. Yui extended her hands to the guy. She asked with displeasure why he was sighing in the middle of the night. The guy slyly told his girlfriend that he sighed with disappointment because he had not met her earlier. The system informed the delighted young man that he was receiving a card to purchase a supercar. He also gained the skill of fluent language. The guy activated his new skill in his body. He hugged his girlfriend and kissed her. Yu suddenly pushed the guy away from her. She felt that her friend's kisses were different from those before. The guy glanced slyly at the girl. He told her in a confident voice that the real kiss was just beginning. Yai screamed excitedly. The guy pressed himself against her and kissed her. The next day, the guy woke up on his bed and stretched. There were banknotes lying next to him. Chen turned his head to the side in surprise. He looked at the money next to him on the bed. The guy decided that Yu had mistaken him for a womanizer. The boy joyfully read the note in his hands. The girl informed him that she thanked him for his efforts and was giving him a reward. Chen jumped to his feet near the bed and began to dress. He remembered that he hadn't received the girl's contact information. The system informed the owner that a critical strike card had been activated. The system informed the owner that the critical strike card was consumed during the operation for a certain amount. It was possible to receive a multiplier for this amount. The guy happily dreamed about how he would spend the money. Chen ran joyfully along the night street. The guy remembered that he had just been reborn and could not mindlessly spend cards. A young man happily walked down the street during the day. He decided to save up some startup capital. After that, he decided to buy a lot of stocks. In the city of Rong, there were no restrictions on purchases, but there were restrictions on loans. A guy saw an unfamiliar girl next to his new expensive car. The stranger got into the car. She smiled slyly at the guy and asked, "Is this really his car?" Chen looked at the stranger in surprise and asked what she wanted. The girl looked at the guy carefully. She anxiously asked him to help her get home. The guy scanned the stranger. He learned her name, facial features, and detailed information about her. After that, he walked past the girl to his car. The guy was standing near the car. He told the girl that he didn't want to talk to her because she had already had 28 boyfriends. After this, the car with the guy inside it suddenly took off and drove off to the side. The face was left standing on the sidewalk. The girl glanced discontentedly after the car drove away. She thought to herself that she had only had 22 boyfriends. Litzy was walking along the sidewalk. She said in a dissatisfied voice that she was having a hard time finding a handsome guy for her hole. A passerby heard her words from the side. A worker in overalls, tools in hand, smiled at the girl. He was an experienced worker and offered to help her repair the sewer system. The passerby glared at the man. She called him a pervert in an irritated voice. The stranger, in a frightened voice, promised the girl that he offered her professional and honest service. He even refused money. The angry face jumped back from the man. Other passersby looked at them from the side. A stranger approached the worker from the side and told him in a sly voice that he meant different sewers. The girl was walking away at full speed. She hit her foot on a trash can. The plumber looked after her and said that young people were so depraved. The passerby turned around in irritation and shouted at the people to go to hell. She kicked her foot hard. The guy arrived at the real estate agency building in his expensive car. He was greeted by the managers there. One of them was Xiao Xia. The manager looked at the new client with displeasure. He decided that the guy just wanted to show off that he was from a rich family. Xiao Xia had to deal with him. The girl glanced at her colleague with displeasure. She asked him out loud, "Why is he leaving her?" The worker visually motioned for his colleague to simply follow the rules. Xiao Xia greeted the client. She asked the guy how she could help him. Chen asked the worker to show him the apartments. Xiao Xia happily asked her interlocutor what his budget was. A man stood to the side and smoked. He looked at his colleague with interest. He thought to himself that the girl should learn to choose her clients. She sat on the couch next to the client. She showed him an online catalog of apartments with finishing. Chen asked his interlocutor to show him expensive apartments within the million-ruble range. The worker began to leaf through her catalog with excitement. She told the guy that she would now show him the apartment he needed. The manager turned around and asked the client what kind of area he wanted for himself. The guy confidently told his interlocutor that he needed a place that could be easily rented out. He didn't necessarily need a new apartment. The girl told him she'd find one right away. Chen began to carefully examine the worker. He saw all the detailed information about her. Xiaoxia offered the client a nice apartment with a modern renovation. The price was from 800,000 to $1 million. Chen remembered that the maximum amount on a critical strike card could be $1 million. He couldn't spend more. The manager handed the client a tablet. She told him excitedly that she could find him other options. Chen decided to find a more expensive apartment for himself. That way, he would get more cash back. The client turned around. He happily told the girl he wanted to buy 5 apartments at once. Xiao asked the guest in surprise, "Is he really sure about 5? Chen explained that he wanted to buy 5 apartments at once, each worth $1 million. Xiao looked at the guy in surprise. She asked incredulously, "Does he really want to buy everything at once?" Chen glanced at his interlocutor. He explained to her with a smile that he wanted to buy all the apartments and then rent them out. The employee realized she would receive a large commission from the sale of the property. Out loud, she promised the guy to negotiate. The man stood near the door, listening attentively to the client's conversation with the girl. He was surprised when he realized the guy was planning to buy 5 apartments at once. The man handed the protagonist a document to sign. The manager told the guy he would buy 5 apartments for $1 million each. A satisfied Xiao stood behind him. Chen signed the document. He told the manager that he trusted the girl. The next time he made a purchase, he would only work with her. The worker watched happily as the client held the phone in his hands. She silently calculated that she would receive between 40 and 45,000 for the transaction. The system informed the delighted owner in the window that he had received 58 million into his account. The system congratulated the protagonist on his level up. It displayed his detailed data. Chen read the information in the system window with surprise and admiration. He calculated his enormous income. The guy felt greatly inspired by wealth. He felt better than in his past life. Chen approached the worker and told her to follow him. Zhao asked the customer discontentedly, "What does he mean?" The manager explained to the surprised employee that she would invite the client to dinner that evening to improve their relationship. The worker imagined herself in bed with the main character. The guy told her that he provides for her. Xiao grabbed the guy by his clothes and wanted to invite him somewhere today. Chen told the client with a smile that he could transfer money to her card number. The girl was very surprised when she heard about the transfer. Chen held the phone in his hands. He thanked the girl for his day. Xiao looked at the client with admiration. She didn't even know what she could say to the guy. The worker looked at her phone in surprise. She saw that 350,000 had been credited to her account. The guy looked at the girl happily and cheerfully. He wasn't worried about anything. Thanks to the deal, he got himself 200 million. Xiao was very happy. Her favoritism toward the guy increased. The girl told the client that she wanted to invite him to dinner as a thank you. Chen looked happily at the worker. For just 350,000, her favorability rose from 50 to 85. The guy picked up the phone. He exchanged contacts with the girl. Xiao noticed that he was dressed very stylishly. The girl imagined herself in bed with the main character. Xiao happily thought to herself that if the guy remained the same until the evening, then everything should go well. Chen headed for the building's exit. He thanked the worker and said goodbye to her. The worker ran out of the building with a phone in her hand. She called out to the guy in fear. The guy was sitting in the car. He waved to the girl. Xiao stood to the side and looked at him with concern. The girl clutched her head in her hands. After the client left, she felt, for some reason, very empty inside. The guy went into his apartment in the evening and opened the door. He told his mother that he was back. The hostess invited the boy to the table. She offered him his favorite watermelon. Chen thanked her. The man on the sofa asked his son if he had thought about his next trip. Chen grabbed a watermelon. He told his father that he wanted to go into fashion and go to university there. The man looked closely at his phone. He told his son that he could decide for himself. His mother would transfer money for the trip. The woman told her husband that she not only needed to provide for her boyfriend with money, but also to take care of him. The boy ate watermelon. He asked his mother not to talk about it. Chen thought to himself that he was no longer as stupid and naive as in his past life. The next day, the guy stood at the station in a crowd of passengers. He decided with displeasure that he would only have a seat in economy class. Chen approached the passenger from behind and apologized to her. He wanted to move on. The guy was surprised to notice that Zhou Lin, whom he already knew, was standing opposite him. The girl greeted the protagonist with a smile. The guy told the girl with a smile that he was sitting in that seat. The girl, holding a ticket in her hand, happily replied that she was sitting there too. Lin turned to the guy and thanked him. She prepared to sit down in her seat. An unfamiliar passenger wearing glasses ran up from the side. He joyfully shouted to the girl that he was also sitting in that seat. Chen hugged his companion from behind. He asked her to move. An unfamiliar guy stood to the side waiting. The passenger told the main character in a dissatisfied voice that he should sit next to the beauty. Chen turned around and explained to his interlocutor that he was traveling with his girlfriend. The stranger sat down in a chair. He anxiously asked the girl where she was going. Lin reluctantly told her interlocutor that she was going to work. The companion turned around slyly and asked the main character where he was heading. Chen replied to his companion that he had nothing to do and decided to unwind. Lin replied with a smile that they were now traveling together. The passenger in glasses told the girl with a smile that his name was Qian Shen and that he was very glad to meet her. The Shen continued to persistently pester the passenger. He offered to help her get to the hotel. The taxi from the airport was very expensive. The guy waved to the guy. He explained to him that he and the girl would be staying in the same hotel. Shen persistently asked his companion which hotel they would be staying at. Chen calmly replied that they were going to the Yanyun Anmen Hotel. The guy was very surprised when he heard the name of the hotel from his companion. This hotel was top class and very luxurious. After a short pause, Shen told his companion that a room with a view at this hotel costs over 9,000 rubles a night. They don't offer airport pickup. Chen calmly replied that he had booked a villa with a garden. Lin turned around and looked away. Shen was very amazed that the guy was able to rent such an expensive villa for himself. Lin slyly told her companion that the villa with garden cost $80,000 a night. She concluded that Chen was a second-generation rich man. The guy explained to his interlocutor with a smile that she was the same. Zhou Lin was the school's belle. She was also a famous rich heiress in town. She was always picked up and dropped off at school in expensive cars. Lin remembered sitting in class and looking at the girl. She was beautiful, but at the same time modest. The boy remembered that Zhou Lin had a tragedy in high school, and since then she had started skipping school. Lin was sitting on the plane with the main character. She told him in a shy voice that she was definitely not rich now. Chen looked at his companion with displeasure. He decided that he needed to change the topic of conversation. The boy started talking to his companion. They both reminisced about their school days. Lin remembered something from school. She told the guy in a shy voice that everything was interesting back then. The guy carefully looked at his companion's stats in the system window. Her favorability level was 75. Chen remembered being in class with a girl. He was surprised that she could have been interested in him back then. The guy left the station building with his companion. He greeted her near the car. A stranger stood near the car holding a sign. She said her name was Wang Yuma. She was the personal assistant at the villa with a garden the guy had booked. The guy asked the girl where she was staying. Lin told the guy that she would be staying with friends in the Pudong area. For herself, she decided to call a taxi. The guy decided to give his girlfriend a lift. He told his assistant Wang that they were now heading to the Pudong district. Shen stood in an alley and carefully watched the girl near the car. He decided that she could be drugged in the car. The guy realized that he had to save the girl. The guy gave his companion a ride in his car. Lin offered to exchange contact information with the guy. She promised Chen that she would treat him to a drink sometime later. The guy glanced at the girl from the car and reminded her not to forget about it later. Lin held the phone in her hand and thanked the guy. Chen smiled at his interlocutor and said goodbye. The girl stood next to him with a phone. The shadow watched the girl anxiously from the car window. He was surprised that the guy let her go so easily. The guy came home to a luxurious villa. He thought to himself with satisfaction that the money was well spent. Van told the boy that the water was ready and he could wash himself. The boy was surprised when the maid helped him undress. Van turned around and told the guy that she helped him undress, but he had to change his underwear himself. The guy walked into a small pool. Van was sitting on the shore at the time and extended her hand to the guy. The gloved maid told the guy that a back massage was included in the service, but it didn't include washing. The girl began to wipe the main character's back in the pool. Chen thought to himself that Van looked very good. He felt sorry that there were no special services. The guy imagined the girl undressing and getting into the pool. She excitedly told him that they were very similar. Van was rubbing the guy's back with her hand. She asked him if the water was hot for him. Chen turned around and looked shyly at his servant. He didn't understand what he was even thinking about. The guy was sitting in a large pool. Van was rubbing his back. She told him there would be a party that evening. He was also invited as a VIP guest. Chen asked the girl what the party theme was. The girl explained to the guy that several expensive pieces of jewelry would be sold at the banquet. Chen turned around and asked the girl, "What are the dress code requirements for the party?" Van was rubbing the guy's back. She explained that there were no special requirements for the banquet. Chen and the maid arrived at the banquet together. Wang informed the worker that the young man had a platinum card and was a guest. The man joyfully greeted the protagonist. Van smiled happily at the guy and waved her hand at him. She wished him a good time. A lot of people gathered at the auction. The host shouted that the item worth 5 million had been sold to the lady. The man informed the guests that the next lot at the auction would be a watch from a fashion brand belonging to Miss On. The auctioneer shouted from the podium to the crowd that the starting price for the watch was 15 million. The price increase would be at least 500,000. The guy looked at the watch with interest. He thought about it and decided that in a couple of years, its price on the secondary market would rise to over 25 million. The guy held up a sign with his number on it. The announcer shouted that gentleman number 35 was betting 15.5 million. A man in the audience raised his sign. The host shouted that Mr. Number 8 was offering 16 million. The guy raised the bet to 18 million. The audience in the hall muttered among themselves in surprise. They couldn't understand who was so persistent among the clients. The host banged his gavel on the table. He joyfully shouted to the guests that he had sold a watch to client number 35. Several strangers approached the protagonist from the side. They were Wang Zheng and Qing Chen. They were wealthy guys. Chen greeted his new acquaintances. Qing asked the main character with excitement, "Is he really into collecting?" Chen told his interlocutor that he bought the watch for the novelty. He had never bought anything like it before. Qing asked his interlocutor why they hadn't seen each other before. Chen replied that he had only arrived in Moda yesterday to study at university. The guy told the main character in a joyful voice that he wouldn't have dared to do such a thing at his age. Qing put his arm around the protagonist. He suggested they have some fun together, Chen agreed. The system congratulated the owner on his level up. He would now receive 1 yuan for every second of his life. Chen calculated that his annual income would exceed 30 million. The guy was climbing the steps, lost in thought. Suddenly, he saw the familiar Yu Xiao in front of him. The girl glanced slyly at the guy and reminded him of the recent evening. Chen joyfully explained to his interlocutor that it had been a wonderful night for him. Yu grabbed the guy by the clothes. She told him with a smile that he was a second-generation rich man. Chen smiled at his girlfriend. The auction was almost over and he invited her to go to the mansion with the garden. Yu looked slyly at the protagonist. She grabbed his hand and told him to show himself better than last time. The girl's ex-fiancé, Zhang Yu, ran up to her side. He angrily asked her what she was doing. The guest asked the guy angrily, "Is it really his business?" Jung grabbed the girl by the hand. He reminded her in an angry voice that they should get married. Yu angrily reminded the guy that he already had a relationship with her girlfriend. The guy held the girl's hand. He explained to her that they were engaged. Now she had to marry him. Yui told her friend with displeasure that he didn't even love her. She suggested that he continue hanging out with his mistresses. The system suggested that the owner approach the guy Zhang and hit him in the face for a reward. The guy suddenly rushed forward and hit the guy in the face with his hand with all his might. The girl next to him was very scared. Chen continued to beat the guy. Yu, from the side, said in an admiring voice that she could not tolerate people who spoil the country's morals. Chen swung his leg to finish off his prone opponent. The frightened Zhang began calling for his guards to rescue him. The guards ran up and grabbed the guy. Zhang demanded in an angry voice that they call the police and detain the main character. The beaten guy threatened the security guard that he would call the police himself and file a complaint against them. The man realized that only the very rich go to the auction. He realized there was no need to cause inconvenience. Yu hugged the protagonist. She explained that she would tell the police that she would stand up for him. The beaten guy shouted to the security guards that the big hotels were full of cameras and he would check the recordings. At that moment, a stranger with a knife rushed at the people from the side. A man with a knife ran into the room. He shouted to people that he had a problem at home, but they didn't even let him in. The frightened guests rushed to the exit. The stranger glanced at the frightened boy. He told the pseudo-man to come out quickly. He threatened to kill everyone. Zhang said in a trembling voice that he was scared. Yu turned around. He angrily demanded that the protagonist find the person the attacker was looking for. The guy stood near the system window. He had a choice. He could run with his girlfriend and get money for it. He could also encounter a passerby with a knife and stop him for a reward. The boy glanced slyly ahead. He had decided to perform a feat for the safety of others and for the sake of his milk masseuse skill. Chen reached out to the system window and activated his triple power boost skill. The guy felt a very strong change in his body. He felt a strengthening everywhere. The guy suddenly and very quickly rushed forward to neutralize the attacking criminal. Chen threw the attacking bandit far to the side with a very powerful blow of his hand. Surprised people stood to the side. Yu was surprised to realize that the guy was not only rich, but also very strong. Zhang sat on the floor, very scared. He glanced sideways at the protagonist with displeasure. The guy stood and rubbed his hand after the blow. Next to him on the floor sat a frightened Zhang. People in the crowd were very impressed. Someone said excitedly that Chen was able to knock out his opponent in just a couple of seconds. The police arrived and detained the criminal. The officer told the protagonist that he intervened in time, otherwise the situation would have gotten out of control. Zhang shouted to the policeman in a frightened voice that the guy wanted to beat him up. He accused Chen of being prone to crime. The policeman turned around and asked the guests, "Is all this really true?" Yaka ran up to the officer. She told him that everything was completely wrong. Zhang turned out to be a liar. The girl told the policeman everything that had happened. The guy next to her noticed that Yu's favorability towards him had increased to 90%. Chen hugged the girl. He calmed her down and said that when he was next to her, no one would hurt her. The policeman looked at the guy with displeasure. He explained that it was all just a misunderstanding. Everyone was very emotional. Zhang explained to the officer in a frightened voice that there were surveillance cameras around. He demanded to see the recordings. Chen decided to use the system's luck card against his opponent. He activated the request. Zhang's bad luck card began to work against him. His phone immediately rang after that. The guy received a call from the bank. He was informed that 200,000 yen had been withdrawn from his account. The client, over the phone, anxiously demanded that the employees send someone to sort it out. An agitated worker ran into the room. She shouted to the guy that a tree had fallen on his car. The damage was very serious. A policeman at the side asked the boy anxiously, "Does he really need any help with his troubles?" Zhang suddenly ran forward, shouting that he didn't have time to deal with trivialities. Chen put his arm around his girlfriend and said that they could now leave in peace. 5 minutes later, the guy was sitting on the bed in the room. The girl leaned over to him and said that she wanted to check if everything was okay with him. Chen smiled at his girlfriend. He told her cheerfully that such a worthless person could not hurt him. Yu approached the guy. She said with excitement that she wanted to check him out. The girlfriend touched the guy with her hands. She asked him if he despised her for such a worthless groom. Chen was sitting on the bed. He told his interlocutor that he didn't expect her groom to seem like that. A friend explained to her boyfriend that her grandfather was sick. so she had to deal with him. Only later did she see his duplicity. Chen explained to his interlocutor that she had had a hard time. He reassured her that he would be there for her. Yui asked the guy with excitement if he really wanted to stay in this relationship with her. The guy hugged the girl and held her close. He assured his girlfriend that he would treat her well. The girl was shy and looked at her friend with great interest. The next morning, the cleaning ladies were tidying up the hotel room. They were discussing the guests among themselves. The cleaning lady cheerfully told her colleague that the sheets showed how comfortable the girl was. The boy was very handsome. The guy was sitting at a table with his girlfriend in a restaurant. They were having breakfast. The guy saw photos of watches on his phone. He told the girl out loud that he wanted to take a photo with her to celebrate his birthday. Yu Power, holding a sandwich, excitedly asked the guy, "Is it really his birthday today?" Chen explained to the girl that he wanted to show off photos of her figure and legs. The girlfriend laid down on her back on the sofa so that the guy could take a photo of her. Yu accidentally stepped on a sandwich with them. Chen took a photo of her afterward. The guy looked happily at his girlfriend's photos on his phone. He happily thought to himself that she looked like a supercar. The guy sent a photo of his girlfriend to his friends. They all looked at her with admiration and envy. A man arrived at a store where a Ferrari dealership was located. The employee asked the customer if he needed a consultation. Chen explained to the woman that he wanted to look at the car they had in stock. The employee pointed to the expensive cars in the showroom. There were other customers nearby. A short, plump man told Suwon that he could buy her this car. The woman replied to Director Huang that buying a car was an important matter. He had to make the decision himself. Her opinion didn't really matter. Huang extended his hand to his companion. He reminded her that filming for her series was about to begin. The man decided to buy Sue a car so she could travel in comfort. The girl promised the man that if he allowed her to play the lead role, she would try hard. The man promised the girl that if she agreed, the role would be hers. He grabbed her hand. The guy looked closely at the girl and recognized her. Suwon was a very famous person in the entertainment industry a couple of years ago. Huan told the girl that they would buy her a car and then go out for a drink. Sue pulled her hand out of the man's hands and said that she still had to go to a company meeting. The man demanded in an angry voice that the girl join him. He threatened that this investment could fail. Sue explained to the CEO in a sad voice that she would not obey him. He could do whatever he wanted. Suddenly, a system window appeared in front of the main character. A special task was activated for him. The system told the owner that he must help the girl out of a difficult situation. He must obtain Suwon's consent to sign the contract. Upon completing the task, a special reward will be received. Chen thought to himself that the girl must fully trust in his financial solvency. A guy asked the saleswoman what requirements he had to meet to buy a car there. The employee told the customer that he had to own 5 cars of their brand to buy a rare model. Chen asked the girl, "Doesn't he really have the right to buy a car?" The saleswoman told the guy in a sly voice that there was no problem if he really wanted to buy a car. The worker told the client that she would help him, but the fee would be a little higher than usual. Chen told the girl that he would pay the full price. The worker was surprised when she heard the guy say he would pay in full. She figured the customer didn't even know how much the car cost. Juan looked at the protagonist with displeasure. He didn't understand why the guy was acting so impudently. Sue looked at the protagonist in surprise. She decided that this guy had decided to outsmart everyone. The worker excitedly told the guy that the base price of this car would be from 45 million. The guy smiled at the girl and said he knew everything and agreed. The employee shouted that she would call the head manager. The girl led the manager to the client. Ching appeared from the side. He waved at the protagonist and said that he heard something like someone wanting to buy a new Ferrari at full price. Chen smiled at the guy and said that he wasn't used to walking around without a car, so he decided to buy one for himself. Ching looked at his interlocutor with displeasure. He said that the word buy sounded very pompous. The manager asked the guy, "Is the guy really his friend?" Ching explained to the man that he had only met Chen yesterday. He advised the manager to look at the watch. The client had bought it yesterday for 18 million. The man looked closely at the protagonist's hand and his watch. He realized that the guy was very rich. The manager shook the guy's hand and greeted him. He said that checking his finances was just a formality. With his expensive watch, there would be no problem buying a car. He promised to handle the paperwork. A girl stood to the side next to a man. They were closely watching everything that was happening. King watched the protagonist anxiously from the side. He decided that his balance exceeded 1 billion. Juan smiled and told his companion that he had lost the desire to choose anything. He offered her a drink and some fun. Sue said she still had a meeting to get to. The disgruntled man stepped aside. He told the girl in a menacing voice not to waste time any longer. This would not end well for her. A guy next to her called a girl by name. She turned around in surprise and asked who had called her. The guy introduced himself to the girl. He told her that if the man didn't invest money in her, he would take it upon himself. C asked the guy in surprise, "Is he really willing to invest in her?" She decided that her interlocutor was much richer than Mr. Huang. The guy smiled happily at the girl. He told her he had business today. They could discuss investment details tomorrow. Sue happily told her interlocutor that she wanted to add him as a contact on social media. The guy and his new girlfriend added each other to their phone contacts and then said goodbye. The client asked the manager when he could pick up the car. The manager told the guy that the earliest he could get it was a year. Chen answered the man in a dissatisfied voice that such a period was too long for him. Ching hugged his friend and said that there was an expensive car exhibition in a couple of days. He could buy it there and take it away. Chen agreed with the proposal. The guy went into the Zhenhe restaurant. There were many guests and customers inside. Yu was wearing a beautiful and bright outfit. She waved her hand to the guy and greeted him. The girl led the guy to a table with various foods. She offered to try them. Yu showed the protagonist various delicious things on the table. Everything looked very appetizing. Chen suddenly grabbed the girl from behind with his hands. He told her in a sly voice that he wanted only her now. Yu looked at the guy slyly. She said that she wanted to rest a little after yesterday. Chen hugged his girlfriend. In a sly voice, he demanded that she give him a nice nickname. The girl kissed her friend and called him darling. The guy told his girlfriend that he liked the nickname. Now she could go and rest. Chen was sitting at the table. He asked his friend if she knew Suwan. Yu said that Suwan was an actress in the company. She asked what happened to this girl. After a short pause, the girlfriend sternly asked the guy, "Did he really like Suvan so much?" The man asked his interlocutor if the actress Sue had potential. After a short pause, Yu explained to the man that the actress had potential for development. Yu looked closely at her friend. She told him that he could contact her any time. The guy extended his hand to the girl. He excitedly promised that he would treat her well. Yui asked her friend, "Does he really want to invest in an actress?" The man placed his hand on his companion's shoulder. He told her he wanted to sign a contract with the actress and invest money. His companion explained that to sign the contract, he would have to start a company. Chen promised his interlocutor that after the company was founded, she would be in charge. He could transfer some of the shares to her. The guy thought to himself that in a couple of years, the company could bring him a good income. Yu explained to the guy that she didn't want to take the company's shares for herself. She asked him for a good salary. Chen told his interlocutor in a dissatisfied voice that they didn't need to quarrel now. The girl reached out to the protagonist's face and touched it. She wanted to say something. The girlfriend hugged the guy and moved closer to him. She told him that after meeting him, she understood what joy in life meant. Now she was very happy. Suddenly, a phone beeped from the side. The guy and the girl turned around attentively. The other person asked the guy about the time and place of the meeting tomorrow. Chen smiled very happily to himself. He realized that the girl was in a great hurry. The next day, the guy drove up to the meeting place with his girlfriend. He was in an expensive car. Sue walked up to the car and greeted the guy. The guy asked his companion where they were going. Sue got into the car. She told the guy that they were going to the Bayou Hotel. Chen and his companion arrived at a hotel cafe. He asked the woman at the table how much investment was needed for the film she wanted to star in. Sue explained to him that even with a large investment, she wouldn't get the lead role. The company wanted to spend $5 million on a short online series. Chen asked his interlocutor with displeasure, what could be the quality of a drama that would cost $5 million? The actress thoughtfully explained to the guy that the series would have a good plot. She suggested he look at the script. The guy explained to the girl at the table that he didn't need to watch. He just wanted to invest. I asked the guy, is he really not going to read the script? The guy handed the girl his phone. He told her he could transfer the money right away. The actress, surprised, reminded the guy that they were only seeing each other for the second time. The guy told the girl in a serious voice that she should be his company's representative. Sue, frightened, explained to the man that her previous contract hadn't yet expired. If she signed a new one, she would pay a fine. Chen told the woman he was aware of these problems. The girl glanced at the guy with displeasure. She knew that in this world, no one could help each other without a reason. In the end, she decided to agree and advance her career. Sue asked the guy in surprise, does he really have his own company? Chen answered the girl that if she agreed to his proposal, he would soon have a company. The guy told his interlocutor that if they signed the contract, he would pay all the fines. The company would focus on her in the next couple of years. The actress's feelings for the guy increased. She asked him, "Will there be special conditions for the investment?" After a short pause, the guy told the girl that if she became an actress for his company, he would not require that she not have other contacts with other people. The actress's feelings for the guy continued to grow. She was surprised that in their time there were still agencies that didn't require contributions. Out loud, she asked the man when they would sign the contract. She called him sir and suggested he call him boss. The guy smiled and told his interlocutor that she should call him brother rather than boss. Sue asked the protagonist how old he was. Chen explained that he was only 20. The actress excitedly told the guy that she thought he was only 18, not 20. Chen told his interlocutor in a sly voice that he decided that she asked him about something else and not about his age. The girl extended her chopsticks to the protagonist. She thanked him for his help. Chen extended his glass to his companion. He explained to her that a successful career is the best return on his investment. The system informed the owner that he had received a reward in the form of virtual currency. The actress at the table promised the guy that she would try her best. Chen looked closely at his phone. He decided to give his information to his parents so they would get used to his wealth in advance. The boy picked up the phone and asked his father what had happened. The man happily shouted at the boy that he had a good eye for investments. In a short time, the Henshin company had become very large. The boy explained to the man that he was now earning $600,000 a month. The hostess was exercising in the center of the room. She told her husband in a cheerful voice that soon their son would be able to surpass him. The man told his son on the phone to be careful and not to relax. Chen told his father that he would be careful. The guy looked at the girl at the table. He suggested they take a little walk. Sue smiled and asked the guy where they were going. The guy replied that they needed to go to the mall to buy some clothes. The actress wiped her face with a napkin. She told the guy that now they had eaten and could go for a walk. The girl was surprised when she realized she and the main character had entered an expensive store. Entry there started at $200,000, and a worker greeted them at the entrance and asked if they had reserved a spot. Sue met her friend Lin Zhu inside the building. The client asked the actress, "Did she really come here to look at her watch too?" Sue became worried. She explained to her friend that she came here with her friend. The man stood next to his girlfriend. They looked at the protagonist in surprise. At this moment, Chen saw detailed information about the girl. The man asked the girl if she had really seen her friend. Lin explained to Mr. Van that she had acted in a drama with this actress. The man approached the girl and handed her a business card. He gave his name, Wang Hai, and told the actress that she could contact him if she wanted to act in a film. Sue thought for a long moment and looked at the man. She took the card in her hands and told her interlocutors that she would not distract them. A young man stood near a counter selling watches. He asked the salesperson what they had in stock. The manager pointed to the counter. He explained what watches were available and offered to buy a watch for the woman for $380,000. The guy decided he needed to find something more expensive. He asked the salesperson for a women's watch, starting at $500,000. Lin stood near the counter. She was surprised that the protagonist's 380,000 ruble item turned out to be cheap. Sue sat on the sofa and looked at the catalog. She thought that Lin Zhu was very arrogant. A girl sitting on the couch asked a guy if he liked the product. He replied that he was just looking. In any case, he wasn't going to buy it. A system window appeared. The guy was given the task of giving Soo-won a watch. The reward was to be calculated based on the results. He told the girl out loud that he could give her the watch. Sue turned and looked at the guy. She told him that she would buy such a watch herself when she earned it. Lin stood to the side watching the customers closely. She decided they were just pretending to be rich. Few people could afford such a watch. The salesman held up a small box containing a watch to the customer and asked him to try it on. He put one watch on the guy's wrist. The salesman said it fit him well. Chen showed the girl his watch on and asked her what she thought. Sue told the guy that it suited him very well. The guy told his interlocutor that the watch felt loose on his wrist. Sue decided to help her friend tighten the strap on his wrist. The actress looked closely at the guy. Her feelings for him grew. The girl remembered that the guy had already flirted with her several times. The guy sat next to his new acquaintance. He couldn't understand why she'd become so favorably disposed toward him. He loudly demanded that the surprise salesperson pack both watches for him. The clients on the side were very surprised when they realized that the guy was ready to buy both models of watches for $2,300,000. A guy was sitting at a table. He asked his girlfriend to help him choose a watch. Sue showed him a diamond watch in a box. The salesman took the watch out of the box and showed it to the guests. He said it was worth only 850,000 won. The actress looked closely at the watch on her wrist. She liked it immediately. The guy was sitting next to the girl. He said this watch looked better than the last one for $380,000. An irritated Tench stood nearby. She glanced at the man with displeasure. The guy handed over the card and told the salesperson he was taking 4 pairs. The employee took the card and told the customer they would process everything now. He needed to wait. The actress reached out to take off her watch. The guy stopped her and said it was a gift. Sue looked at the guy with excitement and said that she could not accept such an expensive gift. Chen explained to his interlocutor that it was his small gift. The bill had already been paid for her, and there was no way to return it. A friend excitedly suggested that the guy give the watch to his mother. Chen explained to his interlocutor that such a watch would not suit his mother. He explained to the actress that it would be a welcome gift for her. Chen looked slyly at the girl. He asked, "Doesn't she really want to please him?" Sue glanced at the guy with a smile. She thanked him and decided not to refuse the gift. The salesman brought the guy a receipt for over 4 million yuan. A girl came in from the side and thanked the guest for their support. She decided to give them a small gift. Lin turned around and looked at the customers with displeasure. She didn't understand where this couple could have gotten the money for such expensive watches. Lin asked the salesperson, "What about their gifts?" The worker told her that they weren't allowed to receive gifts. Van was irritated. He couldn't buy his girlfriend a watch or arrange a fancy dinner. He told the girl out loud that they needed to stop by the next store. The salesman asked the girl if she wanted to buy a watch. Lin turned away and replied that she could do it next time. The system informed the protagonist that he had completed the task and that Su-won's favor towards him continued to grow. The boy was offered a reward. The system informed the owner that he had received a triple refund on his card. The guy thought he had enough money in his account to give the girl another gift to strengthen their relationship. Chen and his companion went into a handbag store. He offered to let her choose what she wanted. The actress told him she didn't need anything. A guy asked the saleswoman what styles were currently in fashion. The woman showed the guests 2 of the season's most popular models, which were in high demand. The guy told the saleswoman that he was ready to buy the goods and he would pay her by card. The worker at the desk informed the customer that his purchase was 120,000. From now on, he would be a member of their club. A surprised girl stood nearby. Sue looked at her companion in amazement. She realized that the guy was very generous and very cool. Half an hour later, the guy and his girlfriend were driving in an expensive car along the evening street. The actress was sitting next to a guy in the front seat. She suggested they go to her house for a drink. Chen told the girl in a sly voice that the guys on the street should take care of themselves. If they get drunk, it might be an opportunity for some of the girls. The girl got out of the car. The guy told her to go to bed early as he said goodbye. Sue looked after the main character with surprise as he drove away. Her favor towards the guy increased. The guy was driving and thought happily to himself that his girlfriend's favor was continuing to grow. He wondered how far this could go. Chen behind the wheel smiled happily to himself. He thought that all this was just in time. The main character was met by a maid at the entrance to the house and told that the bath was ready. Chen told the girl that he wanted to swim first and needed to light some incense. The guy was swimming in a small pool. Van thought to herself with surprise that she very rarely encountered clients like Chen. The guy slyly asked the worker if she had anything special and expensive on the menu. Van sat down and looked at the guy carefully. She told him about the expensive dishes on her menu. The guy climbed out of the water. He calculated to himself that the cashback for such delicacies would be very large for him. The boy climbed out onto the shore and threw a towel over his shoulders. He asked the maid to give him a massage. Van looked at the guy with joy and amusement. She told him to go up to his room for a massage. Van sat on the bed next to the protagonist. She took off her outerwear. The worker decided to massage his back. First, she took out some aromatic oil. The guy thought to himself with surprise that he expected a regular massage from Van, not an aromatic one. Van smiled slyly at the guy and told him that their hotel offered special spa services. He was supposed to close his eyes and relax. Chen stretched out on the bed. The girl behind him was kneading his back with her hands. The young man lay pensively on the pillow. He decided that he had thought up some special favors for himself. Chen was sitting on the bed. The girl stood next to him and said that he wouldn't bother her anymore. She promised to come pick him up at the auto show tomorrow. The next day, a crowd of people gathered at a car dealership near expensive cars. They took pictures of each other. The guy was walking among the people and realized that if his friend Qing couldn't come, the loss would be small. He didn't like the low prices on cars. Chen walked among the cars. He noticed that the most expensive car cost only 2,200,000. That was cheap for him. The guy looked closer and saw some guys he knew standing next to him. He didn't understand what they were doing there. The guests took pictures of the girl near the car with surprise and admiration. Chen happily realized that it was Zhou Lin in front of him. She worked as a model in this place. The girl sat on top of an expensive car surrounded by joyful spectators. A guy approached from the side. He excitedly told Tench that he wanted to pick her up after the end of the workday. A girl from the side said that Tench was so arrogant that she wouldn't even look at them. The girl sat on top of the car and didn't listen to anyone around her. She was looking somewhere to the side. The boy waved to his classmates. His friends asked him in surprise how he got there. Chen told his friend with interest that he had organized some event that he was not aware of. The guy thought to himself with displeasure that everything had turned out awkwardly. The main character had been deliberately not invited on the trip. One of the guests slyly pointed his finger at the man and told the guy to ask him about it. A girl in glasses approached the main character and said that he had become much more attractive since last time. She didn't understand what had happened. An old friend hugged the protagonist and said that his voice had become much more pleasant. Chen asked his interlocutor, "Did he really come to buy a car?" The guest pointed out the car to the protagonist. She said that model Zhou Lin had just been there. Many men were around her, wanting to take pictures with her. The guy looked at detailed information about the girl, Xu Ya. He was surprised that she had 30 partners. After that, the system told him information about Jian Yun. The guy noticed that this girl had a high favorability score. He remembered that he hadn't communicated with her before. The guy on the side turned around slyly and asked the main character what he was doing. Chen hugged his old friend and advised him to take care of himself. The guy happily waved his hand to the girl and said that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. He said that she had become more beautiful. Lin asked the guy with a smile, "Did he really come here to look at the cars?" The young man asked the guest in surprise, "Did they really come here to buy cars?" The guest explained to his interlocutor that the newest, most expensive models were parked around them. Chen approached the boy and said with admiration that their village chief knew a lot about cars. The guest admiringly explained that a Ferrari with all-wheel drive would cost between 5 and 8 million yuan. The guy asked his interlocutor very cheerfully, "Didn't he really come for the car?" Lin waved her hands at the guy from the side. She told him that she was at work and they could talk later. The guest looked slyly at the girl and asked her to recommend him a suitable car. Lin explained to her interlocutor in a dissatisfied voice that he could better consult with the seller about the cars. The boy reminded the girl that they were classmates and that she could help him. The boy told the class monitor that the girl didn't know anything about cars. He could buy whatever he thought was suitable. The disgruntled headman turned to the protagonist and sternly asked, "Does he really want to buy himself a car?" Chen asked the girl, "Will she go to him as a gift along with the car?" The model on top of the car laughed slyly to herself. She told the guy he was witty. Chen said confidently that he was completely serious. A man approached from the side. He looked at the girl carefully and with displeasure. The boss sternly told the employee that she shouldn't talk about her salary. Lin apologized to the manager and said that she would be more attentive. The guy advised his interlocutor to talk about cars elsewhere. He asked the interlocutor with displeasure, "Have you found the car you want to buy?" Chen slyly asked the seller, "Will he get a model as a gift for buying a car?" After a short pause, the man promised the guy that they would give him a film as a gift for a new car. Chen took a credit card out of his pocket. He said he would pay full price for the car. The onlookers were very surprised. They knew the new car cost over 8 million rubles, including all the trim and equipment. The guest on the side happily thought that the guy could lay out 8 million at once. Li told the guy in a stern voice that the girl was working, and he shouldn't bother her. Chen replied to the headman that he would buy the car because of the model, and she should get credit for that. The salesman on the side confirmed to the guy that if he bought the car, there would be a commission for the girl. The young man was surprised to notice that the girl's attitude toward him had increased. He reminded the seller that he wanted to keep the car and the model. The headman looked at the protagonist with displeasure. He decided that this guy was simply making fun of the girl. Chen handed the salesman his card. He said he wanted to leave immediately. The man told the guy that the car was available. The contract had to be completed in the VIP lounge. The guy paid for the purchase through the terminal. The man demanded that the model give the customer a warm welcome. The paperwork needed to be completed. The guests at the party were very surprised that the guy actually had enough money. The guy next to him said in a disgruntled voice that their guy was a second-generation rich man. He couldn't understand why Chen had been so modest at school. The girl next to him slyly asked Chen to take her for a ride in his expensive Ferrari. Her favorability rating increased. The girl's friend reminded her that there were only 2 seats in a racing car. The guy decided to take the Zhou Lin with him. Zuya slyly explained to her interlocutor that she could sit in the passenger seat next to the main character. Lin could be given a ride to work by one of her colleagues. Chen sat at a table next to a cup of coffee. He couldn't understand why the girl had become more favorable towards him. The guy looked at the girl and said that the car would not be as attractive without Linen inside. The girl slyly told the protagonist that he broke up with Chao Jia because of Lin. She silently decided that the guy would soon lose his confidence. Lin was surprised when she heard that the guy broke up with his girlfriend. She remembered that he was in a happy relationship with the girl. The guy hugged the model and pulled her towards him. He told her in a joyful voice that she was very beautiful. A guy off to the side saw the main character's expensive watch. He excitedly told him that he pretended to be poor at school. Chen explained to his interlocutor that after graduation he had passed his exams well and received a gift. He decided to take advantage of it. Li looked away. He suggested that his companions stop by a family restaurant, otherwise problems might arise. Xiao approached the main character and offered to go out to eat with them. They could go for a walk afterwards. Chen explained to the girl that they would call her later, when they had time. Xiao looked happily at the guy and said that they had agreed and they would see him again. The guy told his girlfriend that if she was busy, he would look at other options. Lin thanked her companion. The guy hugged the girl and said that they were odnoklasniki, and she didn't need to thank him. The saleswoman pointed to an expensive car and offered the guy this model. The saleswoman offered the guy a car with a smile. It would be well suited for female customers. The car was full of various features. The guy imagined that he was sitting in a car with his girlfriend. Chen thought dreamily that this car would suit him well together with Yu Xiaoxiao. The guy asked the woman how much the car cost. The employee explained that a fully loaded car would cost $9.5 million. The client said he would pay by card. The girl happily replied to the guy that they would give him 3 years of free technical service. The guy told the saleswoman that he needed the official delivery of the car. He hoped there wouldn't be any problems. The girl told the guy that they would do everything properly. She asked him to get in. The man told his interlocutor that he was taking the car as a gift. He promised to send the worker the address and wanted the car delivered as soon as possible. The girl stood next to an expensive car and broadcasted the video on her phone. She happily praised the expensive car. The guy sat on the couch and listened attentively to the stranger's words. The girl told the audience that if one of her admirers gave a friend such a car, she would be very happy. The streamer approached the main character. She demanded that viewers like her videos. She promised to invite the guy for an interview. The saleswoman approached the guest and asked whether she would buy or just look. The streamer explained to the saleswoman in a frightened voice that she was just there to watch. The worker sternly demanded that the guest prove her solvency. Spectators watched the proceedings closely via phone. The streamer pointed at the main character and asked why this guy was just watching too. The worker explained to the guest that this was just their procedure. Viewers liked the girl's videos and sent her various messages. The streamer didn't know what to do. Lin sat on top of the car. She thought that her friend was very rich. In half an hour, he spent 20 million. The girl thought about it and realized that even if her family were rich, she still wouldn't be able to spend money like that. The guy got up from the couch and stretched joyfully. He realized that the car was heading towards Yu. After that, the guy decided to take the keys to the Ferrari. The man handed the protagonist the keys and the contract. He asked the client how he wanted to register the license plates. The system informed the protagonist that it had already selected a license plate for him. The worker approached the guy and handed him an envelope with his license plates. He promised to help with the registration. The car dealership employee took the number and attached it to the hood of an expensive car. The seller happily thought to himself that this was the first time he had seen such an influential client. The guy calmly explained to the man that he had simply booked a room in advance. The manager turned around and told the guy that the room he had chosen was very appropriate. The employee bowed to the client and said that the number installation had already been completed. The manager studied the protagonist with interest. He thought this guy might be a wealthy heir or an important relative of a high-ranking official. An ordinary person couldn't be that influential. A couple of minutes later, the girl came up to the main character and thanked him for everything. Lin said that she was finishing work. She invited the protagonist to have dinner with her. The guy smiled slyly at the girl. He decided to agree with her proposal. At this moment, the protagonist's phone rang. He picked up the receiver and greeted the person he was talking to. A young man stood on the bridge. He tearfully and fearfully asked the protagonist to keep him company, as he was left without a girlfriend. The boy was very surprised when he heard his interlocutor's request. Lin stood next to her friend and did not understand who he was talking to. The guy held a phone in his hand. He told his girlfriend that Zhou Jian had broken up with his girlfriend and needed support. He suggested they reschedule the meeting for another day. The guy explained to his interlocutor that he wanted to find out everything from his friend. Lin agreed with Chen. They would reschedule everything for another day. A guy walked into a cafe and saw his friend there. He asked the guy in surprise, "Doesn't he really want to jump off the bridge anymore?" Joe was sitting at a table and asked Chen to have a drink with him. The guy was sitting at the table. He told his friend in a dissatisfied voice that he was in a lot of pain right now. Joe looked at the protagonist with a drunken look. He said that Xiao ran after some guy to the restroom. The guy demanded in a disgruntled voice that his friend get to the point of the conversation quickly. Joe complained to his interlocutor that he had seen a girl making out with some guy. He was very upset about it. The guy sat down at the table. He told his interlocutor that he hadn't even met the girl and couldn't talk about a breakup. Chen told his friend that Xiao Ya would soon dump her new boyfriend. Joe asked his interlocutor, "Does he really know anything else?" The guy told his friend with admiration that the girl Xiao's personal life was a complete mess. Joe was happy after talking with his friend. He offered him a drink and they clinked glasses. A young man and his friend walked outside to a taxi. He asked the guy if he could get to the hotel on his own. Joe told his companion that he could call him if he needed help. The guy was standing next to his car. A girl came up to him and told him that her boyfriend's car was parked in front of him. She demanded that Chen move aside. The boy read the girl's details in the system window. Her name was Chen Li, and she was 25 years old. Li told the protagonist that he was nothing like her boyfriend. Chen looked at the surprised stranger and said that she was nothing like his girlfriend. A girl approached a guy and slyly asked if he could drive a car with one hand. Chen grumpily explained to his interlocutor that a sports car isn't driven with one hand. Li looked at the guy temptingly. She invited him to play PUBG. The girl told her interlocutor that she knew more than 10 ways to win. After a short pause, the guy explained to his interlocutor that he could only play Honor of Kings. On the sidewalk, a girl approached the protagonist with a phone and asked if he had called a driver. Chen answered his interlocutor that he had called a driver. The streamer told her viewers that her name was Chao Yingyin. She asked the guy why he looked so familiar. The guy put his hand on top of the girl's phone. He explained to Chao that his photos were very expensive. Chao shouted to the protagonist in a frightened voice that she had forgotten. A guy asked a girl if she really was a live streamer and a driver. The streamer explained to the guy that she was a driver and streamer. She wanted to rent his car for the broadcast. Chen told her that he didn't care. Chao told her viewers on the broadcast that she was very excited because she saw the Ferrari SF, a car that accelerates to 100 kilometers per hour in 2.5 seconds. The streamer placed her hand on the car and smiled happily at the viewers. Lin glanced happily at the main character from the side and said that she could also be his free driver. The guy brushed his girlfriend off. He said that there's no such thing as a free lunch. Chen turned around and asked the streamer if she knew how to drive sports cars. The girl replied to the guy that she used to race a lot of sports cars. She was also a car reviewer. At this time, she held the phone above her head. The driver told the guy she wanted to live stream while driving. Chen told his companion he didn't care. He asked the girl if she really did this every day. Chao told the guy she had a completely free day today. She decided to work part-time after the car show. The guy told the girl to get going. Chao put her phone on the stand and drove forward. She was broadcasting live. Chen thought to himself in surprise that at first he had decided that the girl was an accessible person. The guy glanced at his phone. He thought to himself with displeasure that they had only received 300 yuan in donations. The guy carefully read the comments on the girl's phone. He thought she had very few donations. A guy with a phone in his hand advised the driver to focus more on her main job, where she earned more. Chao told the protagonist that she sometimes gives rides to big clients and shows off her fashion. She wanted to ask the guy something. The driver asked the protagonist why the manager had been so kind to him. Chen explained to his interlocutor that he had bought a Ferrari at the dealership and then been spotted there. The driver asked the guy in surprise, "Did he really buy the car today?" After that, she abruptly turned the car to the side. Chao dropped the protagonist off at his house and gave him the car keys. Chen promised his interlocutor that he would order it again next time. Chao looked at the guy happily and thanked him for his recognition. The girl asked the main character what kind of broadcast he watches. Chen answered his interlocutor that he looks at beauties. The streamer asked the main character to support her and raise her rating. The guy was holding a phone in his hand. He told the girl that he needed to check her account. Chao looked slyly at the guy and asked him to invite her for a drink of water. The guy decided to tease his interlocutor a little. He slyly asked what kind of water she wanted to drink. The girl looked intently at her interlocutor. She thought for a moment and realized she had only 2 options left.